Hello fellow humans. In today's video, I decided why not make a little bit of a different video, not talking about leaks, not talking about meta, not talking about another game, but instead giving my own advice as someone who has finally consistently played a gacha for a year straight now. Well, actually, I'm probably stretching that. I for sure took like I might have taken a few breaks here and there, but we don't talk about that, right? Today I want to help you guys, give you a no bullshit, advice video on some important topics. I think some very important ones for people who will consistently be playing this game, such as if you're a veteran, right? If you're a veteran and you haven't come back to the game in like a year plus, what should you do and what is the best way to use your time? Well, the truth is, because this is a no bullshit video, you simply throw away your account and you reroll. Because the simple matter of the fact is, power creep in this game is so bad that an old 7 to 8 cost team is pretty much worse than a 2 cost team for the newer characters. So it is straight up better to just re-roll, get like 400 to 500 pulls in a single patch, and then pull for like one half-ass team comp and a second half-ass team comp, and that alone will be enough to clear almost all of the endgame content, if not all, in like 2 patches, right? So yeah, I'm literally not joking, I'm not being sarcastic, I am being dead serious. I did this myself with my Castress account. I legit played the game for 2 patches and I was able to clear all endgame content with a Castress that had E1 Tribby and E1 Robin. It's that fucking easy, right? So do re-roll an account if you have a very old account that is extremely outdated. Next, we go into DPS reruns. This is a quite often asked question. Should I pull Herta on a rerun? Should I pull this character on a rerun? Now keep in mind, if a character's design, you appreciate enough, then I fully understand you can pull for that character. However, here is a no bullshit video talking about meta, and so you should literally never pull for a DPS on their rerun unless you're already at, like, let's say E1. Right, there are some good things here, right? Like, for example, if you have an E1 Herta, going for the E2 is 100% worth it. If you have a E1 Phanon, going for the E2 is worth it. If you have an E1 Castress, going for the E2 is worth it. These characters, right? And there's some characters who have it in their E1 instead of E2, such as like Aglaia. I can see someone rolling for E1 Aglaia on her rerun because it is a pretty nice performance jump, right? I could see the exact same thing for My Day, and I can't see the same thing for Anoxa because his Eidolons are fucking garbage unless you're running him sub DPS with Herta, right? So DPS reruns really aren't worth it in the slightest, in my opinion, really not at all. By the time, let's say for example, let's use Herta here. When Herta released, she was the best low cost, high ceiling DPS in the entirety of the game. And 3 patches later, that crown kind of now goes to Castress. Castress is fucking busted with her premium supports. Phanon will probably be the same way, and March will be the same way, right? So meta, top DPSs in this game really don't last that long and are very easily replaceable. The supports are usually what are worth investing in, which we will go into next, being the supports. Are support reruns worth it? Well, if you want me to be honest, there are only 3 support reruns that are worth it in this game currently, and those are Tribby, Sunday, and Robin. Robin is feeling her age a little more these days, since there's a lot of characters either oversaturated on attack or can't use attack. However, it's still very nice to have a Robin on your account, and she's for sure going to help you out solely because of the team-wide action advance. That's always just going to be broken as shit. I wonder if they'll give Cyrene it, but that's kind of going off topic, right? Now, the only problem Robin has outside of the whole attack thing that I just mentioned is not having her Sig and not having Bronya Cone as well. This leads to a pretty bad amount of ER, and so if you're running her outside of a follow-up team, it's going to take you like 2 turns if you're not going against a favorable enemy lineup to actually be able to get that ult back up again. And that is some very disgusting and annoying downtime that someone like Tribby simply doesn't have. Tribby basically always has 100% ult uptime on ult because of how easily she gains energy, and on top of this, Tribby has the better Eidolon investment, and she is a lot less Lycone reliant and is a very good DDD spammer, right? So I will say that Robin compared to, the two Sunday and Tribby, probably a lot less worth investing in. I probably wouldn't invest in Robin these days. However, depending on your situation, maybe you just really like Robin, I'd say she's a fine pull to get, and she's still going to help you clear all endgame content, right? But Sunday and Tribby, I really need to put the emphasis on here. Sunday is a best in slot, for so many DPSs in this game right now, and he will be the future core team of Sunday, Saridra, Dan Heng. Currently, the only core team really that's similar to this is Sunday, Robin, Huohuo. I do think Sunday, Saridra, Dan Heng will replace that team for a lot of top tier teams though. Sunday just has incredibly fucking good value. All his buffs work no matter what type of damage DPS you're running, and his light cone makes him more skill point positive than Sparkle, which is pretty insane, right? So E0S1 Sunday has very, very high value, and then Tribby, everybody knows she has high value and gains even more, like a crazy amount of value if you're able to get her Eidolon 1. Her E1 does 24% true damage increase to the highest HP mob on the team. So at minimum, you're doing 24% more overall damage to the highest HP mob on field. But in very shield scenarios such as 5 target, if you're using a DPS that can hit 5 targets, like let's say Herda or let's say Anaxa, your single target damage on the highest HP mob on field will fucking skyrocket, right? For example, a Herda using an E1 Tribby in a complete AoE situation straight up does more than double her single target damage if Tribby has her E1. It is completely fucking busted what Tribby's E1 does, and I will say it's probably the best support investment Eidolon in the entirety of the game currently. So are support reruns worth it? A certain few, yes. And I'd say someone like Tribby 100%, right? Now do keep in mind that Cyrene is on the horizon. However, the thing about the supports are, you usually have 1 or 2 supports for each team anyways. So having an abundance of top tier meta supports can never go badly, right? It just means you have more choices at the end of the day. So I do think reran supports, certain few like Robin, Tribby, and Sunday, huge emphasis on Tribby and Sunday though, are very worth it, right? So we've talked about making a new account, that advice. We've talked about DPS reruns. We've talked about support reruns. Now let's talk about FOMO. Should you feel FOMO in this game? No. There is no reason to feel FOMO in this game. There are 2 sides to the coin where I think one side feels a lot of FOMO because of the way Hoyo does stuff, and the other side feels barely no FOMO, right? And what I mean by this is there are some people who fall for the meta FOMO. However, anyone who actually plays this game and has no trouble clearing simply will not fall for it. And I've seen this quite often where people are like, oh, do I need to pull Herda? Because she's the new top DPS now, and she has the best Eidolons in the game. Just for 2 to 3 patches later, this character is no longer the top DPS, and no longer has the top Eidolons in the game. Hell, Archer, a free unit right now in the beta, has the highest single target damage ceiling in the entirety of the game. This game is constantly progressing, and the power creep in a way can be seen as a semi-good thing to a certain few people, because it makes it very easy to skip characters, because if you don't like a character's design and they're like crazy meta, oh, you need this character, they're going to completely change your account forever. So long as you can clear endgame content or near clear all endgame content, because you don't really got to worry about the Jades all that much, it's completely fine, right? Like, I'm being so serious. Please do not feel stressed in falling for top meta DPS propaganda, because there's a new one every 2 to 3 patches. Don't feel FOMO for this shit. It's useless, right? So, the last little bit of advice that I'll give here is what I do if I was making a new account, right? Because I did recommend people, there goes my dog. I did recommend people, if you're a veteran and your account is very dated, just make a new account instead so that you can get 400 to 500 pulls and make 2 teams. So what 2 teams would I make with the current following characters? Well, there are two ways you can go about it. You can go the long run and get two way better teams overall, or you could just get two teams to instantly clear endgame content. So the first team will obviously be Phanon because he is in the next patch. Phanon does not have his best in slot supports yet, but the end game shilling will allow you to just completely dominate end game anyways, even without his best in slot supports in the game yet. And once again, you're a new account, you don't gotta go for E2, just get E0, S1, and then Ceridra a patch after, and your Phanon is probably going to be one of, if not the top DPS in the entirety of the game, right? So that's already one team done. You don't need to pull for Dan Heng Preservation in 3.6 if you don't want to. You can just run Phanon Sustainless for a long time, or if you only care about clearing and not zero cycles, once again, you can just use any other sustain, right? So the first DPS I'd 100% invest to is Phanon, and then I'd get his partner Ceridra. So what would I do after this? Well, something you could do, and something that I do think will happen, Kafka will probably get a rerun in 3.5 alongside Heislands. Kafka gives insane buffs towards dot characters in her current, buffed beta. And so Heisland's Kafka team, with probably like any team buffer, you don't need Black Swan, right? Any team buffer with Kafka, Heislands, and then a sustain will probably be able to clear endgame content as well. However, would I recommend going for this second team? No. This is only if you're trying to instantly make two team comps. The second team I would actually recommend is March 7th in 3.6. So you go Phanon 3.4, Ceridra 3.5 for one team, and then after this, you go for March in 3.6, and you get Cyrene in 3.7. It is currently leaked that Cyrene is possibly an Emanator and the first Emanator support in the history of the game, so you can already smell the power creep from here, right? Cyrene will probably be completely fucking busted, and it sounds like she's going to be built around being the best in slot support for March 7th. So March 7th and Phanon Ceridra with March 7th Cyrene, those are probably going to be the two strongest teams in the entirety of version 3 if I had to personally guess. So for any new account maker who plans to continue playing the game for at least a few patches, that is the pulling plan I would go for if I was making a new account. Once again, you don't need to get Dan Heng Preservation for Phanon, and you don't need to get Sunday for Phanon. Like, the more important partner here that will almost 100% guaranteed completely elevate his performance will be Ceridra. So do 100% prioritize Ceridra over anyone else, and then you can decide yourself, do I want to go all out for this Phanon team, or do I want to save my Jades and now go for my second team with March 7th Cyrene? Because if you want me to be honest, you could just wait until the reruns, right? I mean, maybe Sunday will take a long time to get his second rerun, but you can just wait for the reruns, as I imagine a Phanon with Ceridra and a March with a Cyrene will be able to clear endgame content even without their best in slot team for half a year to a year without a problem, right? So that's general no bullshit advice for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments if there are any questions that you might want me to answer that have to do with general stuff about this game, so that maybe I can make another video like this in the future, but with more, topics to go over, because I truly can't think of all that much as a complete meta slave. So I'm sure casuals are able to think of problems that they face a lot more easily than I can. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.